All right. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back for part 3 of our Greater Maldrood playthrough in Imperial Civil War 2.2 Preview Edition. Once again, everything you see is still in progress, so we will be changing a lot of what you see before release, but it should give a pretty good idea of what direction we're going in, at least. So in the last couple of episodes, we managed to take out Zsinj, which split off the corporate sector from Warlord Zsinj, and also the Imperial Remnant now has a few planets in this area over here, notably Kuat. So we shouldn't have to worry about taking Kuat for a while. We'll let the New Republic and Imperial Remnant sort of fight it out and hope that Zsinj doesn't completely crush us. I'm kind of surprised that Zsinj hasn't taken these two planets yet. I don't think we'll be able to defend them if he does decide to attack us. I might even abandon these two planets and move their forces to Metalorn. But so I will have the chat open the whole time here, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can from there. First off, can you guys hear? Well, I hadn't turned my mic on, which is probably why you guys couldn't hear me before I started talking, but what I think we're going to try to do in this episode is expand out towards Mon Calamari, or take Kashyyyk and Porus Vita. I'm not quite sure yet, but first I just want to sort of take a look at what we have as far as ships here. And I will say that there's also going to still be a link in the description of the videos for what you guys want to see next. Just like we used to decide to play Greater Maldrood this time, I believe the straw poll for that currently has the Arido Authority winning at like 39%, and then right after that is the Pentastar alignment at 31%. It'll be, for those of you in the chat right now, if you go and look at the description for one of the previous videos, it should be there. But let us get started. So, I'm not sure how much territory Zsinj will actually have left. I think they did manage to take at least one or two planets from the New Republic over here. But, we'll try to build up as much as we can still, because we do have another few slots for units, since we were full before. And I think I'm going to try to send the Allegiance and Secular, one ISD over to our capital. And we're going to try to build up another fleet for Admiral Alarm to spread out. I think taking New Alderaan next is probably the best course of action, because we can just go there without leaving one of our worlds undefended. Oh, in Centauri's. Okay. Is it happening? Am I going to regret this? Alright, so Sir Ordo wants to know, who are the two non-Pterodach heroes? So yeah, these are... that's... Okay, that's scary. But these are Moff Gittels, which is this one, and Admiral Alarm, which is this one. They were the people who ran the Antimeridian sector, and last episode we went and took over the Antimeridian sector, or Antimeridius, the planet, and so after that they joined your empire. Right, we'll see what we can do for this. Precursor's icon looks like a compressed ISD with a red outline. Well, it is a picture of the precursor, but I did say at the start of the campaign that pretty much all the icons for the new units I just threw together as fast as possible so that there'd be something to distinguish it for you guys. Because we are working on redoing a lot of the UI elements, and we're still deciding on designs for that. Like our UI guy, Wade, who did the UI for Ascendancy, he's still getting the hang of editing the UI in Empire at War. So until we have a decision on what that actually is going to look like, I didn't want to spend too much time making icons that might have to be completely redone anyways. So it was basically just whatever I could do to make it as fast as possible. You build a fleet of only Crimson Command Sort of. They have a build limit of about 15, I think it is. But we did work on getting in some of the team color stuff, so it should be a bit easier to tell what belongs to who. Okay, we can probably take these things out as they're coming in. Hopefully our fighters don't get too torn up by this TR-90. If it makes it out of here. PSD. Try to send our forces forward a little bit, and we'll try to do the same thing we've been doing every time they've attacked Centauris or this map, and we try to just get them as they come up over this asteroid belt. What made you and the team decide on Skyhopper as Maldrood's air support unit? Well, we wanted to have a bit of variety for the Imperial units, and we are trying to work on getting some different air units for them. Like, there's stuff like the Lancet. There's an Imperial airspeeder that's based on some concept art from the original Snowspeeder from Empire Strikes Back. And that's going to be two of the units we use for other people. But because we do want to have that variety, and Maldrood has some closer territorial and political associations with some pirates, we thought it would be a good opportunity to use something that would have been more common in pirate forces, just so that we're not having as much overlap. So we went with a modified version of the Skyhopper, since it's something that the rebels sometimes used and would have fallen into the hands of a few pirate groups. So we figured it was a good place to use them. Stations have Cannon Republic ships for units. Well, the Architect was actually used in both canon and like the new canon and the old canon. It was one of the things that was made up as sort of one of the last things to actually be in Legends canon. Hey, look, it's another Dominator. Is it going to happen again? I hope not. You all need to come over here and actually be helpful. You gotta take out that Allegiance before it manages to kill this ISD. The fact that it hasn't lost its shields yet is... I'm gonna give it some sort of promotion. I did fix the shield gen hardpoint issue we were having the last few episodes, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore. Is boss part of Maldrood in the mod? We will probably not say who goes where yet. I don't want to announce that outside of the news post for it. But Boba Fett, Bosk, and Dengar, at the very least, will be bounty hunters that are available to some factions. So there's them for two of the factions, actually. So those three will actually be split between two different factions. And then there'll be some other, like, slavers and pirates that are... Well, slavers, technically, especially for the Pentastar alignment. I'm going to try to send this IST to the back before it dies. We do have two more, though. I don't know if it's more important to keep this one alive or to get the extra pop cap and... we get Gozanti cruisers. I don't think we're going to do Gozanti cruisers. There's not really much of a role for them. Alright, so there's another Allegiance coming in. That's just fantastic. But we sort of backed them into a corner here. Nope, focus on this one. My bad, my bad. Take out the shield gen at least. I haven't been using the fighters properly this battle. Where's the V-19s? You guys. These were actually probably replacing with V-Wings, the V-19s. So wherever there are V-Wings in the mod, or V-19s in the mod, they'll probably end up being V-19 or V-Wings. I'm gonna mix that up like 18 more times. I don't plan to lose all my heroes, but I make no promises. We'll try to get this Precursor to finish off the Allegiance, and we'll try to take down those shields as fast as possible as well. Hey, Connor. Yeah, code user's been doing a lot of, like, Dr. Knickers, code user, whatever you want to call him, which is his name too much. He has put in so much work over the last week or two, especially trying to rework a lot of the explosion effects, a lot of the fire effects, the weapon effects. So they've been really improving theirs. Oh, I love the new ones. It matches the movies a lot more. It's a lot more clean, and it's less distracting. So, well, these are ours. Why did I think those were theirs? I guess we did swing around. The fact that we might actually win this is very surprising. See, when I lose all those heroes in one battle, I'm just trying to pay homage to Captain Kashyyyk, because he's supported the mod so much by playing Imperial Civil War and Ascendancy. I thought, like, well, if he wants to lose all of his heroes in one battle, then I may as well do it too. Like, there's no point pretending I'm better than him. Are these the only heroes we will see? There's possibly 2 more you'll see in the campaign. It depends on how long it takes me to actually record it, because for the moment, for this GC, these are the only heroes that are coded. There's like 4 more that are coded that are only present in like Era 1 or Era 4. But there's 2 units that we actually need to get done in order for or 2 models that actually need to get done in order for us to have more heroes for them in this era. Will any Mandalorian units be featured in the mod for Zsinj or Maldrood? There's not really many things that can be used as Mandalorian units. Like, there's whatever the one was called in the base game. I can't remember what its actual name is versus the encoding name, because they actually changed the name of the unit in the coding from like Crate or Aggressor or Kadalbi, or like there was 3 or 4 different names, and I can never remember which refers to what and which was actually used in the game versus what was just in the coding, because I spent so much more time looking at the coding for Forces of Corruption than actually playing it. Like, I think I played through the Zan Consortium campaign and then did a few skirmish matches or something, and then I never touched base FOC again. So hey, I haven't lost a single hero in this campaign yet, Michael, so I guess the Crusader... I'm not sure if the Crusader counts as a Mandalorian unit. Was Crusader Mandalorian? I'm not sure. Where is Livon? Yoni Tavira? Tavira actually comes in towards the end of Era 2, so it's sort of like the post-Zsinj campaign, which, like, this goes right up until the end of the post-Zsinj campaign. So she, like, just misses the cut for this GC. There's actually a sort of split that we're doing within Era 2, and she'd come in after that, is what we're looking at for that. So in sort of the same way that Era 1 splits between Isard and Sate Pestage, we're doing something else in Era 2 where it's sort of split into 2 halves, and that's where she'll come in. Hey, Ragnarok. But there's people like Tavira and Palion who are later era heroes for them. And there's a few heroes that will come in if you take Kashyyyk in Era 1, like only for the very early Era 1 GCs. where if you take Kashyyyk in like the first few weeks, you'll be able to get a few heroes out of it. I'm still trying to decide exactly which we want to use for that, because there's like 4 or 5 that we could use, and I really don't want to use every single one of them. And which ones we decide on for that will also influence some certain things with some other heroes that they may or may not get, or which may go to the Arido Authority instead. But once we have decided all that, we'll do the We Could Be Heroes news post for them. I'm going to try to get in behind them. They're probably going to retreat back, because I think there's a goal in here. With the new factions... Oh, 1 sec, sorry. Alright, this is fine if I don't pay attention for 3 seconds. With the new faction split, does that mean Era 3 will have 7 factions show up when Palps dies? It will depend. So, the biggest example of a faction split after something happens will definitely be Palpatine, with Palpatine dying in Era 3. And how many factions come out of that will actually depend on which territory they control. So it's sort of preset. The way this functionally works is there's a list of planets where in the coding it's set that if the remnant in that, for the example in that one, if the remnant controls planet X, then after a certain thing happens, it will join someone else, and certain units will spawn on it. So which factions spawn will depend on which territory they control. So if the remnant controls all of the mid-rim that used to be Greater Maldrood and nothing else, then the Imperial remnant could conceivably turn entirely into the Greater Maldrood and the Crimson Empire, and that's it. But there's a few more, like there are a few other factions that it'll turn into if they have, assuming they control the entire galaxy, hypothetically. There are a bunch of factions that can come out of that. And which factions specifically those will be talked about when we do the Galactic Conquest breakdown for Era 3, which should be pretty soon, actually. And that's going to be one of the ones that makes me pull my hair out the most when I'm coding it, because that will take just days to properly script. Which is why it's probably a good thing for Pox that he's busy lately, and that I learned how to do that. Otherwise, Pox would have to do all that, and he would probably try to kill me if I told him to do that. But with code user Dr. Knickers actually back actively doing that sort of like graphical upgrade for ICW, it does leave me a lot more free to focus on some of the gameplay stuff, and so that's going to be super helpful. He's even, I think yesterday he started working on the first of the death clones for one of the units. Yeah, I'm going to turn this off. Menu, options, game. There. I'm done with that. I had that on to take a screenshot of something, and I just left it on, and now I regret it. But, so yeah, in general, we are trying to go with different events that can make the Galactic Conquest a bit more lively and not just be like giant sandboxes. There still are going to be some that are just sandboxy. The biggest one that comes to mind right now is just the Stars Align. Since you already have Endor Aftermath and Fractured Empire, or no, I think it's called the Back to War now, whatever, that are taking on most of the plot stuff for Era 1. And since the Pentastar alignment didn't really have a lot going on plot-wise, there's not going to be a huge amount of story stuff that goes on with that. But that is one of the bigger focuses we have, where, well, we got kind of lucky, I guess, in this GC, where the first 2 episodes had the 2 bigger events for Maldrood already occur, where we took Antimeridian and also killed Zsinj. But I was saying in the chat, because I think Chris asked about that sort of thing with the Thrawn campaign, but what we're trying to do first is give each GC sort of one main plot or one main event, and then after we're done that, we'll have some more freedom to actually come back through all the GCs and sort of flesh them out a bit more. So for this release, you'll probably have most GCs having the one main thing that happens with maybe a few other little hero spawn events or things or conquer events with some story attached to it. But that should hopefully be something that we're able to expand a bit more as we go through. This should be easy. This would have been a lot faster if I did this at the start. I'm still getting used to talking and playing at the same time. It's a lot more difficult than you'd think. Okay, so Michael's correct, and I guess that is a Mandalorian ship, I guess. I was always kind of confused by the idea of them building capital ships, especially at this point, so I don't know why Petroglyph really went with that angle, as far as the Kadalbi or Crater Aggressor, whichever one. But I know you guys answered that up or up more in the chat, but I've once again forgotten. I'm just never gonna get it straight. But is there a way to make the Marauders so it isn't so useless? I'm not really sure. Like, it's such a small ship, it's always going to be kind of terrible, and especially because it has mostly turbo lasers, it's not a very good ship for anything. Like, we're probably going to have to end up doing a modified version of it, and then we'll try to do something that's a bit more useful. It'd probably have to end up being, like, concussion missiles again, or lasers, so it's good against fighters, but as far as, like, if it's not something that's just used for anti-fighter, then if it's used for, like, an anti-ship thing, there's never going to be any ship that it can actually beat because it's tiny and has so few weapons. It'll always be sort of the bottom of that pile. In my several playthroughs, I noticed some issues with the chest. They don't seem to build third-grade shipyards at some point, and the combat space station turrets work randomly. For the first thing there are some GCs where the Empire of the Hand doesn't have their AI enabled, especially if you're playing as the Pentastar alignment. That might be part of what you're noticing. So they'll only have what they start with, but that was before the 2.15 patch. Whenever I've played against them, I've noticed them building stuff fine. So I'll pay more attention to it, but I think it's okay. And as for the Visvia, we are trying to make a new particle for it so it's a bit more obvious when it's shooting, but it doesn't do opportunity firing as much because that's where it picks its own target, because the cooldown is really high. So it'll typically fire at what it's told to fire at, and the cooldown between the shots is incredibly high. So a lot of people end up not really noticing that it is doing anything. But hopefully with the particle changes, that'll be a bit less of a problem. Right, so we're just going to sort of park here. We'll take Kashyyyk next, and I think I just want to try to get as much infrastructure going as we can. So Metalorn, you're probably going to end up getting some more mines. We'll have some heavy vehicle factories and some more light vehicle factories, so that should be good. We'll get some E-webs and some infantry first. If we can take Porous Vita and the Transitory Mist, that'll really reduce the number of defensive fleets we need. But I do really want to take New Alderaan at some point. Probably just lost their shields quickly. Well, yeah, in Republic at War, these are like top-of-the-line warships, but at this time, they're just kind of terrible. Okay, so this is your planet now. Is there even anything we can really destroy there? No, that's just all capital ships. You can have it. It's all you. Get some providences there. Since someone was asking if we could build those, and That'll actually be most of our unit cap. I want to get a better unit. I actually want some of this pop cap for other stuff. I'm going to sell a precursor so we can get a few more companies of more useful tanks. There we go. I think we can defend whatever they send there. Yeah, that's nothing. What will Maldrood have? IPv1 Crusader Corvette. They fill a similar role, the Crusader and the IPV. Does Maldrood get a shipyard building? Well, they have the same shipyard as everyone else. And I remember, I think Ragnarok asked if the speeds have been reduced on ground battles to what they were before 2.1. And yeah, because we are switching back to having some smaller maps, we are going back to having like normal speeds for the ground units. The reason we increased the speeds was because the maps were so large and it would take hours of running around trying to find a single squad of troopers. And that can be frustrating, to say the least. Before I forget, I was playing yesterday and came across one of my largest pet peeves. Will you set specific locations where shield gens have to go and base lay it? So are you asking if... Well, the shield gens are based on map editor placement. There's only one place where they can go per map. We can't change that in the base layout, if that's what you're asking. Like, you'll have some mods where the maps are incredibly large and the units are incredibly slow. So you end up spending hours doing literally nothing. And we used to be one of those mods, so we wanted the easiest first step to that was speeding everything up on ground, and then we wanted to go and remove the next step was to slow them back down and then get all the larger offending maps out. What else was there? Like, we can't change the functionality of the base layouts. The only thing we can really do in that respect is for the planets where the maps have changed and the base layouts have stopped working, all we can do is re-implement them. We can't actually change the functionality behind that, though. That is all hard-coded. Will the new Warlord factions get the shipyard discounts to the NR, IR, PA, and Empire of the Hand yet? Oh, I'm guessing that's what Michael was referring to as well. So there are some things we're going to be doing that are sort of in the same vein as the shipyard companies, like Zsinj will have Rancor base. And there's one or two things that Maldrood will get, and then we're thinking they won't always be shipyard related. So there'll be some other economic structures. For example, in the Eridu Authority, one of the things we're thinking of is on Eridu being able to sort of like purchase or being able to build like a Tarkin family estate sort of deal, and then you'll be able to have reduced costs on things there from the Tarkin family, in addition to possibly being like an economic structure or something. But that's sort of where we're going with that, if there's not a better option as far as an actual shipyard company. But yeah. Why did it look like the Tonfalk had extreme eczemas for a second? There are some issues with the spec map on the Tonfalk right now. And the shadow map. For whatever reason, the shadow mesh doesn't like displaying properly on it, so we're still trying to figure out what's going on there. But we managed to... Oh, you can't destroy that anyways.